welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tyla, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you all about my favorite books that I read in the year 2020. I read more books than this, but these are the ones that I loved and that I wanted to share with you today. I figured that this would be a good video for everybody to look back on if you needed a book recommendation or two, and if you have any for me, definitely leave those in a comment down below. I'm very open to your suggestions. So the first three books that I'm going to be talking about today are based in Paris. This is when I went to Shakespeare and Company when I was living there, and I asked the nice lady for books that were written by American expats living in Paris because clearly I was going through something. I was at a time where I was feeling alone and needed the company of expats who have been in the same situation. I ended up reading a lot of memoirs this year, which is a change because I'm always reading fiction and self-help books. So that was a nice little switch. The first book that I have to share with you guys is called Inside a Pearl by Edmund White. This is a memoir of a man who lived in Paris amidst the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. It's a cocktail party of a book that dives deep into the French psyche while also shining light on other cultures too. Since he's an author, the people that he meets in the book are other artists such as Yves Saint Laurent or Michel Foucault, and I was just so sucked into this book because of the fact that he is an American in Paris and he's kind of navigating his way through. He doesn't know the language, he doesn't know the culture, but he's so fascinated by it all. Being an American gay man in the artistic social network of the 80s in Paris is definitely such an interesting story. This book shows Paris in an enchanting light with the magic that the city has when you first arrive there, and it shows you what happens behind closed doors as well. So highly recommend Inside a Pearl. A more recent novel, this came out in 2016. It's about another American expat living in Paris by Elaine Ciolino. This is called The Only Street in Paris, Life on the Rue du Martyr, which is a half-mile long street in the 9th arrondissement, and this book is kind of written as a love story to that street. It provides like an in-depth look about how life is living on this street. The Rue du Martyr has managed to keep the feel of a small village despite the globalization and gentrification that rose over the majority of Paris. This street, as well as 60 others in Paris, are protected under the local urbanism plan law, which passed in 2006 to preserve the city's architectural heritage. But what this means is no big chain stores or clothing stores are allowed on the street. Artisanal shops are replaced by more artisanal shops, and the original feel of Paris and the history of Paris for the last 200 years is able to be maintained and preserved. I recommend this book if you are longing to travel to Paris, because when I got this book, I would always go to the street and read it there, and being able to see the buildings that are talked about in the book and see them in real life is absolutely amazing. So if you are a dreamer of Paris specifically and you want to feel like you're being transported there, definitely read this book so that you can manifest your eventual travels and then see it for yourself in person. The next book is called We'll Always Have Paris, Trying and Failing to Be French by Emma Beddington. This is the memoir of a girl who was from England but was obsessed with the idea of becoming French. Like, she manifested it. She eventually moved to France, she married a Frenchman, she had half French kids, she did the whole thing. But then she realized that she wasn't looking for much outside of what she already once had. So this is this tale of a search for home, and this is very comforting to me at a time where I didn't feel like France was my home, and I didn't want to come back to the States because I didn't feel like that was my home either, and feeling lost and realizing that home doesn't have an address. It's in here. So I didn't spoil anything for you guys in the book. I really enjoyed this book mainly because of the connections I was able to make, knowing some of the terms that were used in the book and knowing the places that were mentioned. Other than that, the writing didn't really thrill me. I definitely think it is a good book, but the other ones I've mentioned before are definitely better in my opinion. So this is a book that was recommended to me by a friend. This is called Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. This is an amazing book. I am not finished with it yet. It is something that you have to take your time through. It uses multicultural myths, folk tales, and fairy tales to describe a soul knowing is the best way I can put it. It tells stories to help us unlock the memory of the wild feminine within, and definitely talks more about exploring those archetypes. The wild woman archetype represents the instinctual nature of women, and through these stories we can better connect with ourselves. I definitely think that this is a book that anyone can and should read. I just haven't finished it because it is definitely a book that makes you want to reflect and do a lot more deep digging tugging on your soul, and I would highly recommend this if you are into self-discovery. Usually I read a lot of spiritual and self-help books, and as I said, this year I read a lot of memoirs and fiction books, but the one self-help book I read is called The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. This is a ancient like Toltec wisdom book. It's about the art of relationship. This book breaks down the elements of love, how to give and how to receive it, and how to implement these knowings into your daily life, and I definitely recommend it because it was a very easy read. I read this in about one evening and the squirrels are going mad. They're going mad. The last book that I want to talk about is my favorite book of the year 2020. This is Find Me. Now, if you have read Call Me By Your Name, then maybe you have heard of this book. It is not necessarily the sequel, but it does take place about a few decades after Call Me By Your Name, and it involves the same characters. So in this book, you see Elio's father and like his journey. This book tore me apart. I swear, I was looking at the last page, silently sobbing. Like it wrecked me. So if you liked Call Me By Your Name and you haven't read this one, please do. And if you just want to read this one, I honestly loved Call Me By Your Name, but this one just struck me harder. The author is such an amazing writer. I am currently reading another book by him right now just because I can't get enough of the way that he writes. So definitely read this book. You don't have to read Call Me By Your Name first, but if you want a double whammy, I definitely recommend it. If you are a hopeless romantic, you will love this book, and you gotta read it and you gotta let me know how you like it. So those are all the books that I have to share with you guys today. If you like this video, please let me know, and if you want more recommendations for other books that I am currently reading, definitely leave a comment and I will do that video for you. I am very pleased with the amounts of books that I read in the year 2020, and I hope to double that in 2021. If you want to follow me on Goodreads, my I'm pretty sure it's just the same as it is here, Tyla Ali. I have recently gotten into Goodreads and I have been giving my reviews on past books that I've read. If you want to see what ratings I've given them, definitely hit me up on Goodreads and we can be friends over there. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, be safe, all the rest. All right, see you guys. Bye.